Cloutier here from Premier Gift Solutions, and today I'm going to show you how to make big, beautiful bows for your gifts, greeting cards, and gift cards. And something about making a handmade bow just gives your gift extra special touch. No matter what the gift is, it gives it that tailored and polished look. Yes, you can always go buy a bow from the store, but there's just something special about a handmade bow. So I'm going to show you one of my favorite bows to make today. So let's get started. Okay, so to make your bow, there are three basic items that you're going to need. And of course, first is your ribbon. I prefer to use wired ribbon because it's a lot easier to manipulate. And if you make a mistake, it's a lot easier to fix. It doesn't wrinkle up. Also, on your gifts, if your bow gets smushed, they're really easy to fluff out and to get beautified real quick once again. So you could use a wired ribbon. You could also use your satin ribbon, which I like to use, but it's not as forgiving. If you do mess up, you're going to have a little bit of a wrinkly bow, but you can use that as well. And then you need something to tie your bow up with, so you can use something like a twist tie or a pipe cleaner, I mean. It's kind of up to you what you prefer, and also what you're attaching your bow to. And of course, you need scissors to cut your bow, and you might need a lighter, and I will show you why later. Depends on the type of material that you decide to use, but this will come in handy later. I'll show you why. So let's get started on our bow. If you prefer, and I tell you what, when you're starting out, you may prefer to go ahead and cut off about a yard or two, actually probably about 2 yards of bow, depending on how large you want your bow to be, but you pre-cut your bow. It does make it a lot easier to work and manipulate when the bow is already pre-cut. However, I like to work right from the ream because I don't waste ribbon that way. So the way I start off is, and this is the bow that I'm doing, is I like to call it a 3-part bow. It has 3 sides to each side. So I start off with my tail. This is actually going to be the length of my tail. So if you want a shorter tail, you would measure off a shorter tail, but I'm going to start off with the length of my tail, and I'm going to just bunch it together like this. Okay? So you're doing a lot of bunching and folding to make ribbons, to make bows. Okay, so I'm going to bunch it up like that. Then I'm going to pull a little bit more material and make my first loop. I think I want my bow to be about this size here. And so I just bunch that together under my thumb right here, and I have my first loop. And you can kind of play with it to make it straight. Okay, so then after I make my first loop, I'm going to, and depending on your material, my material happens to be the same on both sides. Sometimes you get ribbon and it's different on each side. So what you can do to make sure that your bow looks the same all the way around is you twist. Okay, you're going to twist it, and then you're going to make the next loop for your bow. So here's my second loop. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing, which is bunch it together under my thumb. Notice that I'm never letting go. Now, to measure, I'm going to pull each loop into these 2 fingers and pull up. When I do that, if I'm getting the same length, that means my bow sides are going to be the same. Okay, so each time I make bows, I go ahead and I check, pull up, make sure my bow lengths are the same. If they are, I'll continue. If not, I'll make my adjustments to make sure that they're the same length so that my bow is uniform. Okay, so now I'm going to, again, I'm going to twist. Depending on your material, you may have to do the twisting so that it's uniform. I'm going to make a 3rd loop. And I'm kind of measuring it against this loop to make sure it's the same size. Okay, so there I have my 3rd loop. It will look something like this. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the middle loop of the bow, that little poof that goes in the middle, the center of the bow. And to do that, I am going to twist again. Okay, but this time, and you see how my bow is getting a little curly, this is why it's a little hard to manipulate when you're working from the ream, but I'm kind of used to it. But to make my middle loop, what I'm going to do is take the bow and I'm going to loop it around my thumb right here. Okay, I'm going to make a tiny small loop, and I'm going to make that loop around my thumb, just like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and bunch it like I've done before. So now I have that loop that's right there in the middle. I still have my bow, my ribbon on the side. Okay, and I have my bow in the middle, and you can kind of tighten it and play with it depending on how big you want your center to be. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to twist again. Alright, and I'm going to make a fourth loop. Once again, never letting go of that center, never letting go of those bunches that you made previously, and I'm bunching it together. Always holding it. Then I'm going to measure, make sure it's the same height, same length. Okay, so now I have 4 sides to my bow. Now I'm going to continue. Twist, making my 5th loop. You can see it getting a little twisted there, but there's my 5th loop, bunching it under my thumb yet again. And it makes, see how it curled in? That's why I like wired ribbon, because you can really just pull it out. Just like that, real simple. Okay, and now I'm going to make my 6th loop, which is actually going to be my final loop. Twisting again. Bunching it under my thumb. Never letting go. This looks kind of big. I'm going to measure it, and it is. So I'm going to adjust just a little bit. Measuring it again, and this time it's okay. So now I'm done with the basic setup of my bow. So after you get your bow and you have as many loops as you want, you could go on and make four-sided loops, 4-sided bow. You can make a 5-sided bow. It's kind of up to you and what type of gift or gift or maybe card that you're putting a bow for. But I'm going to stop here at 3, and I'm going to go ahead and take my cleaner pipe, and I'm just going to stick it down in the middle of the center loop, bringing it all the way down. I'm going to bring it underneath my thumb. Okay, and I make sure I have all those folds in there, and I'm simply going to twist and tie to secure the bow. Okay, now not done yet, because we have our tails we need to make. After you have tied your bow together, you're going to bring your tails down like this. Kind of measure it out. Okay, and then you're going to cut. And since it's still on my ream, I'm not wasting any excess ribbon here. So I just cut. Now, depending on what you prefer, if you prefer that your bow tails stay straight like this, you can kind of leave it like that. What I like to do is make kind of, I call them tuxedo tails. And to do that, you're going to put your tails together. Alright, line them up together. Then you're going to fold them so that all the corners are together, like so. Take your scissors and you're going to cut diagonally from the top to the bottom all the way down. Okay, and there you have your tuxedo tails waiting for you. Now, depending on your material, this material is pretty good. Sometimes you get the little fraying on the side, so a little trick that I learned is to get some heat and just go across the bow at the bottom like that. And that kind of seals in your bow a little bit, okay, and it prevents that fraying down at the bottom. Then you can go ahead and start twisting and manipulating your bow to look like how you want it to look. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So now here's my beautiful finished bow, and I'm ready to attach it to this candy bar bouquet that I just made for a friend of mine for her birthday. And probably the best way for me to attach this bow is to use one of my favorite things ever, which is glue dots. And I will just take a glue dot, just peel one off, attach it to the bow, and what I did was I folded down my wire. Depending on what you're putting your bow on, you can always leave it and tie it on, but in this situation, since there's glass and the width is pretty wide here, I'm going to go ahead and use a glue dot and just glue it right to the front, just like that. You just hold it, and then once it's secure, all you have to do is fluff it out and arrange it, and now my gift is ready to deliver to my friend. So if this is your first time making a bow and it didn't turn out maybe exactly the way you wanted it to, because it surely didn't for me when I first started, don't give up. The main thing with doing handmade bows is practice makes you better. There's no perfect bows, but practice makes you better, and just keep trying and don't give up. So I hope this video was helpful, and have fun making your bows. Take care. Bye bye.